Game one of the NBA Finals. Still seems weird saying that, but great. For more now, let's bring in Blake Murphy with The Athletic. Thanks for being here, son.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, so matchups, right? It's all about matchups. We're just talking about it with Nathan as he left the desk there. So they really did maximize their roster against the Sixers and the Bucks. Do they have the length and the strength to do the same versus a tough Golden State team?
Yeah, the thing with Golden State is obviously the level of talent is going up. So even if you think you match up well, and the Raptors do, the Raptors are probably the best defense in basketball and one of the three best defenses the Warriors will have faced in this 5-year run of theirs. Yeah. But the talent level is extreme. And even with Kevin Durant missing the first game, maybe the first 2 games, you have Steph Curry and Draymond Green and Klay Thompson. There's a lot going on. Yeah. The Raptors can hope to match up about as well as anyone can hope to match up. There are no bad defenders in the rotation. Right. They have Kawhi Leonard, who might, him or Draymond Green might be the best defender on the planet right now. So if anyone could match up, it's them, but the difficulty level here is very high.
This Kevin Durant enigma is something strange. The more you hear about how many games he's missed, how well they've done without him, obviously he's one of the best players in the world, but they seem to have a different kind of chemistry without Kevin Durant. What's your take, or what are you hearing about the possibility of him playing in this series at all?
Yeah, it sounds like Game 3 is probably the earliest. They've only ruled him out for Game 1, but the initial timeline was something like a month. A month lines up with Game 3. I think to the Warriors' credit, obviously, they've played quite well without him. Raptors fans shouldn't be unfamiliar with something like that. During the year, we saw, the offense looked a little different and maybe a little more dynamic in Kawhi Leonard's load management games. Eventually, Kawhi Leonard's offense and the rest of the Raptors' offense kind of came together like that, and that's what the Warriors will be hoping for whenever Durant gets back. In the meantime, this is the Raptors' window to take a game or two until he gets back, because it gets more difficult once a potential MVP candidate drops back into the lineup.
Kawhi and Green, this is like Magic Bird. I mean, Draymond Green's playing like Magic Johnson right now. Maybe a lot of people haven't watched a lot of that series and what he's done over those 3 first series, but he has really elevated his game in the absence of KD, and has grown up. He's lost all that sort of nonsense play, and he's playing like an adult, like a man, and it shows.
Yeah, he's lost a bunch of weight before the season ended too, which is
spry.
Yeah, we wish we could all do the same, right? But no, it's great. It's if you were to lay out, who had been the playoffs MVP to date, it's Kawhi or Draymond in some order. Probably leans Kawhi, but Draymond's right there. The playmaking, the defense he's had. This is going to be a really interesting look at not only 2 of the best defensive players of this generation, but how each team decides to use them. Right. Do the Raptors put Kawhi on Steph Curry in big possessions? Do the Warriors put Draymond on Kawhi, or do they want him on Siakam so he can kind of come over and help at the rim and all of those things? So there's there's some brute force to the level of defense, but there's also some chess play that'll go on with the coaches and how they use them too.
And when Kawhi leads a double team on defense, we saw what that did to the Greeks. So he can float around like that too. And let's talk about the other Danny Green for Toronto. His shooting woes are something to behold here right now. How much longer do they stick with him? Do they keep him in the starting lineup, let him take 4 or 5 threes? If he misses them, he just doesn't play a lot more, or do they actually change him out?
Yeah, I think they'll roll with him in the starting lineup, at least to start the series. I know it's been bad. He's shooting 31.4%, I think, on threes. This is a guy who shot 45.5% all year. 40% career 3-point shooter. He has had some really strong playoff runs, too. Over his 2 appearances in the NBA Finals, he's hit 50% of his threes. So this isn't a case of, the moment's too big for him or anything like that. Yeah. You hope that the 4 days off give him a little mental break and maybe a physical break. But they're going to need him. They're going to need his 3-point shooting. Indeed. They're going to need his defense on Klay Thompson. If at any point they want to play some smaller lineups to match up with Draymond at center, they're going to need Green out there. So they'll definitely start him. Not definitely. I think they'll start him Game 1 and put their faith in him and see if he can turn it around.
So a small sample size in terms of these teams going head-to-head this year. 2 games, right? Yep. Raptors won them both. 1 without Kawhi, I think, too.
Yes.
Is anything meaningful to draw from that?
I don't think so. Steph missed one of the games, too.
Right.
Each game had a couple pieces missing. So there's not, in terms of, does that mean the Raptors are better? No. It does show you, though, that they're beatable, that you can win an Oracle. And then, the biggest takeaway was maybe the game that Kawhi and Kevin Durant played, what that matchup looked like. And Durant put up a ton of points and Kawhi put up a ton of points. And I think, if anything, it just shows you, these could be some really close, really fun games. Even if you can't extrapolate the specifics, I think those show you at least that the Raptors are good enough to make this a series.
And there's so many great sidebar stories, but we'll end with one. Anybody that hasn't been a Raptors fan forever doesn't know about Del Curry and young Steph and his brother shooting hoops on our floor.
Yeah, I think as early as when Steph was like 8 years old, he was getting shots up at what was then the Air Canada Center, and he played in some tournaments locally and stuff like that. It's cool. I think he golfs around here fairly often as well, so that'll be a neat wrinkle. I'm sure Dell will be around, but I can't imagine he's going to have the Toronto in his corner
Probably
for this
not.
one.
So actually, I lied. Last question. Experience. Is experience in this series entirely advantage Golden State?
I don't think so. No. You have Kawhi Leonard, who's won a Finals MVP. Danny Green, who's been to 2 finals. A lot of the guys on the roster have made several long playoff runs now. Marc Gasol came in with playoff experience. Right. Kyle Lowry, this is his 6th straight year kind of going through it. So even if they don't have the finals experience necessarily, I think the experience they've gathered together and apart, they haven't been in a finals, but there's a lot of experience there in that locker room.
It's going to be something else Thursday night. This town's going to be on its head. Thanks very much, Blake.
Thanks
Pleasure.
for having me.